answer to all your burning questions.
Hello, YouTube. This is Rizwan from Anime Secrets here. Today we're starting a new YouTube series. It'll be a limited run for one of the Super Sentais currently airing in Japan right now. Ressha Sentai ToQger, which is the 38th season of Super Sentai. For those that don't know, Super Sentai is the Japanese equivalent of Power Rangers, and it's actually where Power Rangers originated from. With us tonight, we're joined by Anthony Davis from Anime Declassified, our child podcast that we have been doing on YouTube for the last few weeks, and guest speaker Nathan Desai from Otaku Sentai Digital Ranger, and some other Facebook groups that we've met him through. Yeah, we have a little bit of bias here with the Otaku Sentai Digital Ranger crowd, but what can I say? These guys are the ones I trust to talk with Sentai about. So, without further ado, let's break down the format for tonight. As you might have seen on the website, I've been reviewing Tokkyuger for a couple of since it began, but around the point of episode 17, I took a hiatus from watching it because I was getting really bored by it. But recently, I started watching again. I caught up, and I figured instead of doing like written reviews, I would do some podcasting to make it more fun and hit more points than I possibly could have during a review session. So Nathan and Anthony are here to help me with that, given they're fellow Sentai fans and have both watched all of Tokkyuger until right now. Tokkyuger is scheduled to end, I think, this weekend. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, it's been a hell of a train ride, but here we go. Tokkyuger, actually, do you guys want to say anything before we begin?
Let's see what I can say. Just the fact that I'm only fans of two of the characters, and one of them isn't there at the moment, but we'll get to that when we get to talk about the characters and stuff.
I would probably like to note that, I mean, I guess this probably should matter because a lot of people like to judge Sentais based on, like, who wrote them. And the head writer for this Sentai, I'm pretty sure her name is Yosuke Kobayashi, and some of the other Sentais that she wrote, she did an episode of Mega Ranger, and then she was the head writer for Gingamon, which is Lost Galaxy's counterpart, Time Ranger, Time Force's counterpart, and she also did Shinkenger, which I'm pretty sure Anthony has seen, and a lot of others really love.
I've seen it completed. Yeah.
And a lot of people really love that Sentai. And then we have a season that I know that Rizwan has seen at least half of it. It's Go Busters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see Go Busters too.
So obviously, like when the Sentai was first coming out, people obviously had high expectations because usually a season written by her is considered to be one of the better ones. I mean, a lot of people don't like Go Busters, but I'm pretty sure people still had high expectations, irrespective.
And while we're doing this little introduction talking thing, I'd like to point out a couple of facts. So the listeners and viewers of this video and podcast, I'm still kind of terminology is kind of weird for me. But anyway, I'd like to point out that the collective three of us have seen, I think we've all seen all 20 seasons of Power Rangers in America.
Mm-hmm.
I have only seen Kazuka Sentai Go Kaiser, which is the 35th Sentai adaptation, not adaptation, but season. And I've seen parts of Go Buster, a little bit of Curator. Tokkyuger is my second almost full Sentai I've seen. I'll be finishing it obviously this weekend, but this is the first one I've been watching on a weekly basis, and I just want to throw it out there so y'all know I'm not like the biggest Sentai knowledge. I'm not the most knowledgeable in Sentai. I know a lot from podcasting with the guys, but a lot of my knowledge just comes from reading and hearing things. So Tokkyuger for me, I'm going to base it just as a standalone No connection to any of the past Sentais. I'm not going to compare it to how it did to anything else. My goal is to just compare it, like, just rate it as it is on its own merits. You guys are free to do however y'all want, because I know you guys have seen a bit more than I have.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, that's it.
Alright, well, Ressha Sentai ToQger. This is, like I said before, the 38th season of Super Sentai. And the motif, as you may know, every season of Sentai has a motif. Go Kaiser is pirates, Shinkenzer was samurai, Go Buster was cyber crime, Kyorazer was dinosaurs. ToQger is trains, which is a very unique and limited motif. I mean, I don't think there's ever been like a train themed Sentai before, or like a Kamen Rider. I could be wrong on Kamen Rider though.
I believe it was Dino. I believe.
Yep.
Okay, so there is a train motif in Kamen Rider.
At least that's what I hear. I've never seen a Dino, but
Yeah.
I did read that.
They do like have like they do have a time like a time traveling like train. I believe that's my thing.
Okay. Well, when I first saw the trailers for ToQger, I was really skeptical, dude. This is back when I had just finished Go Kaiser. I had seen information on Go Busters and Kyorazer, and I had begun my crazy marathon of all the Power Ranger seasons to try and keep current before Super Mega Force. And just looking at the ToQger helmets and the outfits,
You're like,
I mean, they were ugly.
they were ugly.
They were really badly done, in my opinion, back then. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I didn't really like the suits, especially with the helmets. I mean, I guess I kind of appreciated them trying to do like a different theme with some of the trains based on the helmets. Like, for example, the Red Ranger's helmet appearing to have like a smokestack in the front, and like while the other ones don't have that. But aside from that, I really didn't like the suits. I mean,
Like the whole it's too much color and not enough white. That's what I'm thinking.
Though, I do want to point out one thing about this team of colors. I believe this is the first time in Sentai history that we get a lime green color for the Green Ranger.
yep.
Normally it's a bit more darker in color.
Yeah.
Which, it's not a huge thing, but it's still interesting to see for the first time the lime green coloring.
Yeah, you
And,
usually get like a dark color.
one more thing before we jump into the actual meat of this review. So I'm not explaining it during review, it's a bit more confusing. ToQger has a weird premise with the power changing. Instead of like just having their one color, like Red Ranger, Blue Ranger, whatever, they're numbered. So it's ToQger 1, ToQger 2, and that is because the ToQgers can swap their trains that are under Morpher and trade out for
Basically,
other ones.
I probably explain it.
Yeah.
Basically, they're switching lines. Basically, there's the pink one, red one, blue, yellow, and pink, and they're all like they can interchange between lines and stuff, which can get kind of confusing unless you have the numbers listed on their bodies. Otherwise, you wouldn't know like who's who.
Yeah. Pretty much. I never actually realized the line thing before. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's that. They actually explained that before.
Wow.
And that idea until ToQger, and just, I have to admit that like, as much as it's a cool concept, up until like maybe the midpoint of the season, and I'll mention why it worked a bit better when we get to that point. I didn't really like that concept that much because there didn't really seem to be much of a reason. Unlike in Go Kaiser, where like sometimes it would make sense why they would change into this team or that team, but
Yeah, but here this didn't
like
make much.
thing that they just throw in.
Yeah, for me, it's it was confusing watching the battle scenes with that. It just made it was really bad for me.
They didn't really explain why they were able to do this.
Though I will say, It's a great what if. I've always wondered since the beginning, what happens if you use a different power coin or like a different galaxy sword or whatever. Like, what if you use somebody else's device? What would happen? Would you
Yeah.
still turn into your color? Is it like DNA coded? Is it like just within you, and the device is like a manifestation, or does the device actually give you everything? And at least in the spectrum of Tokkyuger, you're given the answer to that.
Yeah.
That it's based
And
on the device.
and no one can complain like Sky from SPD. Oh, I want to gonna be take this to the you're bam, you're red.
Whoa, Anthony, bro, you're cutting out.
Ugh, hang on.
Oh, look, you're back.
Can you hear me now?
No,
How about now?
better.
What I was saying was that, like, I'll take this for example. Think of Sky from SPD, how much he wanted to be red.
Yep.
If he were to like claim like, oh, I want to be red, he could just always just take somebody's line and switch them and be like, hey, I'm red now, and there be no complaints.
Yeah. But anyway, now that we have the background for Tokkyuger more or less set up, and we'll fill in the gaps as we go along now. Tokkyuger opens with a bunch of kids on a train. They're kidnapped by a monster named Sato Creep Bag Sato. And the only reason I still remember his name right now is because I wrote it in a review for the first episode. But anyway, he's one of the Sato line evil monsters. And the premise of the Sato line is they try to absorb all the negative energy to kind of fuel the darkness that they're trying to foster and make bigger to try and take over the world. Whereas you have the Rainbow Line, which is trying to fight that to keep the light. So we're basically thrown into the middle of a plot by one of the monsters who's trying to take the negativity of the kids by making them cry, and it's kind of tragic, I guess.
Yeah, and I want to point out for like the beginning portion of it is most talk about like how like it involves more or less kids, you know, seeing all this crazy stuff because of imagination and all that, and like a mess. They really sold like imagination being like the big thing in this series instead of it being about like, oh, if the adults can't see it because, you know, they're adults, they can't, you know, really picture imagination, etc., etc.
It's kind of like the Santa Claus premise where
Yeah.
after a certain age you just can't do it anymore.
Exactly.
But anyway, during this plot to steal all the energy from these kids, there's a young man on a train sleeping. Which, how is he sleeping to begin with? I didn't understand until about an episode ago. But I'm not gonna spoil it. But yeah, right. The name of the guy is just sleeping on a train. No big deal. Just knocked out. And he's awoken and he sees this monster doing all this horrible stuff to the kids. And he starts to fight back. And during the fight, the Tokkyugers board the train from the Rainbow Line. And they start fighting the monster. And they take a right back to their own train because he was knocked out during battle. And when he wakes up on the Rainbow Line train, he realizes that the Tokkyuger are actually his childhood friends. Takati, Mio, Kagura, Hikari. Did I say that right? Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's introduced to the mentor of the Tokkyugers. His name is Conductor, with his little sidekick Ticket. By the way, Conductor is creepy.
He really is creepy.
He is the creepiest mentor I've ever seen, and that's not saying much given I haven't seen too many mentors yet of Sentai. But I mean, Nathan, you've seen more.
He's up there. I've seen more, and he's the weirdest one I've seen yet.
I'm pretty.
If you don't count Kamen Rider.
I could put him on the creepy meter. I mean, probably in like maybe the top 5. He definitely has competition. Like this, I can't remember his name. Like the Elephant Fist Sage from Geki Ranger, who was like,
Oh
like
yeah, like a real pervert.
yeah, he was sexually harassing Geki Yellow. You
Really?
can't get much creepier than
Yeah.
that.
Okay then. Did not know that, but that's something to keep in mind for Geki Ranger. So anyway, Wright's like, why are you guys all on this train? What are y'all doing being Tokusatsu? And they're like, well, you're Tokusatsu 1. And Wright's like, okay, cool. I'll be a Tokusatsu and I'll help you fight because that's the right thing to do. So they go try to save the kids, and Wright forgets his Tokusatsu sensing device, whatever it's called.
It's the funniest line ever. He's like, "Wait, how do I turn to Tokkyuger again?"
Yeah.
He just punched off in the
Like,
face.
he basically jumps from the Rainbow Line train to the Sato train. He's like, wait, I'm forgetting something. Meanwhile, the other four are like, he really did that. We better go save him.
It's called a Tokyo changer, by the way.
Oh, Tokyo's answer, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. So, they save the kids, and they defeat the monster by using their combined weapon system, their combined weapons into a bazooka kind of thing. And the unique thing with the bazooka is the bazooka ammo changes every time you use it.
Yeah.
And it's fueled by imagination, which, by the way, imagination, if you can't tell, is a huge motif.
Don't you mean imagination?
Yeah, that's why I find Conductor really, really creepy. Because he basically, when he sees them, he's like, imagination! And any subsequent time he'll say imagination, he'll say it like that. And, I don't know, I just find him really creepy for that reason.
He's done
Along with
other
other
stuff.
things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he also has, like, he has Ticket on his hand. Ticket's a hand puppet that he actually makes move and talk and everything. And everyone's convinced that Ticket is just a puppet. That's all he is. But Ticket has his own personality, and he's really, really mean.
He's a prick.
He is such a prick.
You're being nice. He's a prick.
Yeah. So they defeat him using the tears of the children, which when they send it through the bazooka, just kind of makes a bunch of crying babies appear on top of him, like stone babies. And they fall on him.
And explode. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, so during the fight, this is when they figure out that they can also trade their colors. Because Wright's like, huh, I want to try this out. He just grabs the train off the other guy's Tokyo Changer and tries it on, and oh look, it worked. I'm now green.
It worked.
Oh wait, now I'm pink. Oh wait, now I'm yellow. It actually gets to the point where even Conductor and Ticket are like, wait, you stop that. And they hit like a reset switch in the train itself, and all the trains go back to normal.
They're like, stop that, that's annoying.
Yeah. And it really was annoying. I'm so thankful he did that, because otherwise, I wouldn't know who it's who. I mean, I would, but it's kind of hard to keep up.
Except for, like, maybe, like, if a guy was pink, then, like, you know, you would kind of say, oh, that's a guy being pink, you know?
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
Yeah. Because then you wouldn't see this. They actually do pay attention to detail. The skirts aren't on the men.
Yeah.
So that's a good
Thank
thing.
God. Thank God.
Yeah. Wright's already kind of fruity as it is.
It kind of look like a girl, too, a little bit.
Yeah. So, anyway, they formed their Tokyo Mecha after Bag Sato turns big and bad, like every other monster and every other Sentai and Rangers ever done. So they formed their giant Megazord equivalent called Tokyo, which, by the way, Tokyo is a pretty ugly looking mech.
It's not that appealing.
I don't think it's the... I still think that Travelian, which is the equivalent of the Solar Streak Megazord and Power Rangers Mystic Force, is still the ugliest train mech, but I still don't think that Tokyo looks that awesome. Like, I mean...
I think it actually details the worst I've seen, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of the toy either, because like the minute that it showed like the toy before it showed in the show, it looked like one of those cheap Happy Meal toys you get at McDonald's, and the show's version doesn't really improve on that design that much.
I just feel like these mechs, like right now, the first one is just not. Train mechs did not happen.
Yeah.
I think am a strong believer that the mech designs should be left to like animals or dinosaurs or whatever.
Yeah.
None of this like the cars and the trains, because they just don't look all that creative when they're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it works in some cars, I guess. Like, um, I guess it worked in the Car Ranger adaptation. I mean, not like in Car Ranger when they had the. I don't know what it's called in Japan, but I know it's called the Turbo Megazord in America.
Robo.
Yeah,
RV Robo.
I do like that one. That was a good looking car mech. But the other ones just were not that impressive. I hated the Bokenzer Zords, how they
Oh
looked.
yeah, it wasn't like
They were just really uncreative to me. And then RPM, actually I like them better in Goans than I did RPM.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause we
But
can-
that's a whole different story for a whole different day.
yeah.
Anyway, we're back from our little tangent, which has transferred over. So, after the fight, everything's good and done. Ticket little puppet dude's like, hey, you guys are actually dead. And I'm just like, spoilers! We're only one episode in. And the episode 1 ends there. And I'm just like left for a week like, wait, are they zombies? Are they ghosts?
What
deal
most
here?
people thought that he was thinking of was that they are gonna be dying if they continue on this journey. Like, oh, you guys are already dead if you already became Tokkyugers, because this is a very serious job and you guys could die. So
See, I've read a different articles, and evidently some of the fan servers interpret that scene really differently. Because some fan servers have said Ticket literally told him, you're dead. While others say what he meant was, if you continue doing this crap, you're dead. And we're going to have to discuss which one it really is at a later time, in a later
Yeah.
episode. Because it's actually a really big plot point from here on out. Anyway, after this point, the Tokyugers begin their journey around, I guess, Japan? Is it? Or is it like the entire world? Actually, are they set in like Earth as we know it, or are they like in their own world?
I think,
basically, what it is that like there's like an area with like where they live in where they have to go in each town in Japan to like save all the shadow towns and stuff. Basically, that's what it is.
Okay. I didn't know if these are like towns actually found in Japan or not. That's what I was wondering.
Mhm.
After this point, we get a lot of filler.
Yeah,
And I mean, we could talk about every episode one by one here, but
Yeah.
it's really.
I barely remember the half the stuff that happened in those films.
I know what happens. That's not the problem. The problem is that it's just not like that interesting. That's the biggest problem with Tokuger is there's so much dang filler and like nothing of consequence happens ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they go from town to town, they fight Desato, they defeat Desato, and they move on. And the only thing that's really cool about Desato from this point on is every town that Desato infects has a different, like, problem. For example, episode 2 had a sword master who I still think is one of my favorite villains from Tokuger, honestly. Like, in terms of, like, footmen.
Yeah.
Not, like, big bad, like, glitter and all that. But, I really like this guy because he was a swordsman. He basically had the entire town start dueling each other. So if they passed anyone, they automatically stopped walking, turned, faced each other, pulled out some swords, and started dueling to the death.
Sort of kind of like how with Pokemon, you just look at the guy like, oh, I want to challenge duel. Or like,
Wow.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
That episode has a whole new light for me now. But I mean, it's. I like this episode for that reason. It was a really creative take on a swordsman.
Yeah. that part where like freaking when the guy was like pulling the swords up and like he went underneath the tunnel and his
Yeah.
swords break. That shit was
And
funny.
he's like, what?
What?
Yeah. They do discover at some point during this episode that they think okay. One thing with the Tokusatsu, all five of them collectively have no memory of where they're from. The last thing they remember is being kids, so they don't know where the last 15 years of their life went.
The 10 years to be precise.
10? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give them 10. It looks like they're older than that, but whatever. So they start concluding, okay, one of these towns that they're cleansing of darkness is their home. So to continue to enough of these towns, we'll find home. And what? Go ahead.
And that's kind of where I have a problem with this premise, because two other Sentais have kind of had this sort of premise. One, and I can't really comment much on it because I haven't seen it, I've just read about it, is Flashman, which is one of the older Sentais that was never adapted into Power Rangers. And then we have another Sentai, which I've pretty much made it clear in a video, but I posted on the Toku Sentai DigiRangers channel. It's my least favorite Sentai.
Oh, don't tell me.
ToQger. And I don't have a problem with like them reusing premises, because I mean, after all, like with 38 Sentais, you can only come up with like so many new premises. But I was really hoping that they would try to do something different with this premise. And honestly, like that's one huge problem. Like it's like just them trying to find their home, but there's not really much of an interesting thing about it. Like Flash did it the best. Ghost Sager could have done it really good, but unfortunately didn't. And this one, I guess, is kind of an improvement over Ghost Sager, but that's not really saying much. Like
we even see Ghost Sager like the end of the series, so they like don't even get to the show.
Anthony, stop talking. Your mic went out again.
I guess what I can kind of say is that, like, here, I mean, I do like how they constantly bring up, like, them trying to come home and, like, they're trying to make a visible effort. Well, with a Ghost Sager, except for, like, the second episode, and then I think episode 25, and then finally in the last episode, those seem to be the only episodes where they showed that they actually gave a shit about returning home. Like, every other episode was just like monsters come out, we got to go fight it. Who gives a shit if we can go home or something like that? So,
well, not even that, but like it feels like every now and then during these filler episodes, at the end, there's something where, like, let me give you an example. Episode 3, risking everything after reaching the wrong conclusion. The episode basically is the coffin episode where they're fighting that coffin master guy who basically takes all the guys, takes anyone in the town, puts them in a coffin and buries them or something like that.
That was creepy.
It was. Anyway, Kagura is dealing with this monster as her own thing, and during the battle, she has a glimpse of her past, and she sees a lot of water in like a nearby pool or something. And from this memory, she can conclude, okay, our hometown is somewhere near the sea. Or, later on, there's something about, like, a festival, that they all remember, like, a festival happening. So, I'm not getting into that too much right now, but they kind of, over time, do kind of say, okay, we can narrow it down from a memory from the filler that this is a identifying trait of our town. But Nathan, I agree with you. They don't make a valiant effort to try and find her home, ever. But at the same time, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I think part of it is because they are Super Sentai, and their job is to vanquish the dark.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like, I mean, like, I don't really mind it. It's just, like, I do wish that, like, it's why I have more of a problem with Ghost Sager, though, is that Ghost Sager didn't even mention much of returning to the Ghost Sager world. But with ToQger, I understand that, like, getting home is one of their priorities, but protecting the world is their first priority. But I do appreciate that the ToQgers at least mention returning to their hometown more often than just, like, maybe once, like, every 20 episodes or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Real quickly, let's change gears, if you might. Instead of talking about the actual episodes, which, I mean, we can do that if y'all want to as well, but I want to take a moment to talk about these characters a little bit.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best thing to do because
I feel like the characters, a lot of these fillers are based around characters more than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's pointless to talk about this stuff without talking about the characters at all.
Mhm.
I'm gonna make this easier for the listeners. From this point out, for the rest of the 7 episodes left in this review, it's all filler. Nothing really truly happens. I think they get like a train armament at some point.
well,
Yeah, they find different armaments for their trains and stuff.
and I think they do also. Isn't it by this point that they find one of the mechas that leads them to getting their secondary mecha?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go back to that then. You're right. I thought that was later on.
It was.
But
Well, I think they found one of them like earlier on.
they found the Sealed. I remember that.
Yeah, the shield.
They find Sealed. They find Diesel, and they find Drill. No, not Drill.
Yeah, Drill was well,
Way later.
yeah.
Anyway, it'll come to me when we start like talking about the other episodes. But real quick with the characters. Actually, Nathan, I think you have a better logic on the characters than I do. So if you want to talk about that, I enjoy hearing you talk about them.
Well, honestly, like with the ToQgers, I mean, I guess honestly, up until a later point, the only two ToQgers that I really cared about and naturally liked were Hikari and Kagura. And
I like her too. Yeah.
and I liked Hikari, like with because I always really like the serious characters and every Sentai, because every Sentai needs to have at least one serious character. Even the really silly ones have to have it. And Hikari was cool. There was one episode, I think it was episode 7, where it's revealed that he has this kendama toy, which he uses to help him think better. And I was really hoping that, and I was really interested in having how that helps him think better. And I was actually happy that the series would later give us a little bit of revelation on that. So
Yeah.
I like Hikari. And Kagura, well, I mean, first off, I mean, it's impossible to hate Kagura because she's just too fucking adorable. But I like the characters who she seemed to be like the character that was the most interesting, considering how she was. Like the first episode outright shows her that she that she has probably the second most imagination, because she's weak, but then she has to use her imagination and make believe that she's super girl or something like that. And
as far as combat ability goes, she's the least experienced in combat.
Yeah, but I always like characters like that because they all that she reminded me a lot about I Am in Gokaiger a little bit.
Yeah.
And yes, and I was definitely hoping that I definitely look forward to seeing an arc for her. Hopefully by the end of the show she's a bit more I wouldn't say completely stronger or more serious, but at least a bit more of a competent fighter, kind of like yeah, or maybe a little bit of what they were pushing for with Dawn and Gokaiger. But
yeah,
aside from that though, none of the Wright was just a boring Wright just seemed like a boring Red Ranger to me. Like he didn't seem the least bit interesting. I mean, which which I think, and I really thought that the series was also going to be red centric because the first episode literally has all five of the Rangers except Red already be Rangers, and then the Red Ranger gets his powers in the first episode, and that's exactly what they did with Tokyuger. And well, without giving too many spoilers, Tokyuger is like the epitome of red centric,
Mm-hmm.
and so so he the so I guess in a way I was kind of happy that they didn't focus on him completely, but he was still really boring.
Now, with
Um,
that said, the characters that they did focus on, like Takati, I wish
yeah,
they hadn't.
yeah, Togachi is just
Yeah.
I I know some people like him, and I understand that like he can be a likable character because he's funny, but I don't think focusing on comic relief characters is really a good move, and that's
Well, the thing with Takati is he's the stereotypical Blue Ranger nerd, like how in Power Rangers Mighty Morphin, Billy was a nerd. The difference is when I began watching this, I honestly pegged Takati as the smart, intellectual, quick on your feet, battle tactic guy. Like he would be the one to tell you how to get out of a thing.
Hmm.
Kind of like Izzy and Digimon was. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't a fighter. He was a guy that could think outside the box and do something. That's what I hope Takati would be. No,
He's also a klutz.
Takati is a klutz, and he's not all that smart.
No.
Hikari, however, is really smart, and
Hmm.
he's really he's a good second in command. I feel for the two
Yeah.
Racers.
And
He's always
one
like one step ahead of everyone else.
and one thing I want to point out here in the second episode, like he's actually the only one that was like, okay, we got to focus on like getting more answers and stuff, and like right, just like nope, we should just do this. And I'm like, listen to Hikari, he knows what he's talking about.
I think if they had just like listened to Hikari more often, they'd be done by now.
Exactly.
and that's like to me like Hikari just seemed like and I don't mean to like insult Anthony here, but to me Hikari just really seemed like an instant replay of the Green Ranger that we got last season.
You talking about like Kyuuger Green?
Yeah, Soji, and I know Anthony is a big fan of the character, and he was an awesome Green Ranger, but the problem
Yeah.
was that the show did not focus on him that much, even though he's one of the more interesting members of the Core Five. And here, it's the exact same thing. Hikari is an interesting Tokuger, but I think, and I kept on complaining about this, like the last episode that we get that focuses on him, I think is actually in this little area of episodes. It's like an episode where like the Tokkyugers get arrested and he starts taking detective skills to rescue them. And
Dude, he is my hero for that episode.
That was a pretty good episode. I like that.
But going back on track because that's way later on. Did we talk about Miyu? I think we did. Or no?
No, we didn't talk about it yet.
Okay. So real quick, Miyo's the yellow Ranger, and she's really like a mother character. She's a mother figure for like Kagura. She tries to make sure that everyone's like healthy and well fed and happy. That's her concerns in life, really.
She's
Sure.
also like, very, 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 very uncomfortable when it comes to guys. Like she does not want any guys around her, like in any sexual way or any like.
Well, I see the reason for why that is, but that's a later kind of thing.
Yeah.
other than that, though, she just seemed to be like I guess the best comparison would be Shinken Pink. I think.
I
Just,
would say Luca too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not really Luca, because Luca's more badass than that.
Yeah.
But
He has a soft. She's more soft spoken than Luca is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's literally what Shinken Pink is. Like Shinken Pink is just a sweet and like motherly character. So
I think she's kind of a mixture of both in a sense, sort of, maybe.
So, aside from all that, we were talking about earlier the auxiliaries mechas that they pick up, and I went back and I went through my reviews, and I found a list of them. They found the sealed Ressa. I'm pretty sure that's the name of that Ressa. Right?
I thought it was Signal Rusher or something.
No, Signal's later on, I think.
yeah,
I'll Signal Parent.
Yeah. So they find the sealed Ressa, and that's the first thing they find, and that's when they discover that there are certain trains that left the Rainbow Line, and they got too far from it, and they lost their connection way back. So due to that, they've been kind of dormant, sleeping. In some cases, they've been pretty much powerless to move on their own. Seal's the first one. It forms a seal for them to use in battle. Car Carrier is the second one, and that appears in episode 5, where the Tokyugers find a place that they can't get to via the train track, because the train track's actually kind of gone.
Yeah, they got broken.
So, Car Carrier loads up some mini trains onto it, and they use the car carrier Ressa to just shoot some cars over the gap and get to the other side to do some reconnaissance, while Conductor and Ticket fix the train track, because that's what they do apparently. And then Diesel, who is by far my favorite train in the entire. So I mean, I love Diesel O. Diesel is the old tank train that they found near like a museum. His signal was so faint that they could barely hear him, and whenever Wright found him, he discovered it's a really old train. And something about the fact that he calls him Gramps, just really kind. It just really kind of hit home for me. Like I like that.
yeah,
Like it wasn't just another resort; it was like an actual friend, in a way. Like even if it wasn't like an actual sentient being, just that kind of connection, I guess.
yeah. It was really cool because
Yeah.
I've seen this before too. I actually saw it in the Sentai that I'm currently watching right now with Mega Ranger, where the equivalent to the Delta Megazord, which is actually called Delta Mega in Mega Ranger. Like there was literally like an entire episode that's devoted to Mega Red's connection with Delta Mega. So now when I look back at that, it's actually kind of cool. Like it's cool to see Rangers connect with Mecha, even if they're probably not actually living things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's hard for me to explain what I saw in it, but there was a connection there, and I really liked seeing that. It kind of gave a bit more depth. Well, it didn't really give too much depth to Wright, because Wright's an idiot, but
Yeah.
it made it more memorable, I guess, because that's the only one I really cared about. The others, I didn't care about him. But, yeah, after they get in episode 8, the Diesel Ressa, they find out the main train that they've been riding in needs some maintenance. So they use all the support Ressas that they've gotten to this point to form a secondary train to go around. And in this episode, they actually form Diesel O, who, by the way, is probably a way better looking mech than Tokyo.
I agree.
Like,
Wait, didn't they get a mecha? Didn't they get another train before that one? The tank Russia, the one they got while fighting against Schwartz, one of the main generals, or was that like a later episode?
I think you're right.
They had Diesel was a combination of Diesel Ressha, Car Carrier Ressha, and Tank Ressha.
Okay, you're right. I missed tank. Sorry. So, good.
Now, I actually think that Diesel Ressha is pretty cool too, especially since it actually shows like 2 Rangers, like since it's made up of 3 mechas instead of 5, you actually have 2 Rangers piloting 1 mecha, which I think is actually kind of cool. It reminds me of some of the older Sentais that came out where like the main mecha was like two or three mechas combining instead of like five into one.
Mm-hmm. No, I really like the Diesel O for that reason. And I think even more the reason I liked it is because either the episode he was introduced in or the episode after he was introduced, there's a really epic battle between Diesel O and the Monster of the Week, where it's a nighttime battle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like things are on fire, things are going nuts, and Diesel O just looks really badass in the dark light.
Yeah.
And Tokyo comes to help out, and the two of them fight off the monster and win the day. Cause good guys. Um, Going back over the episodes for character development, the more interesting filler episodes we get is as we mentioned earlier, Kagura is a bit of a she has the most imagination behind right.
Yeah.
So Kagura is always like playing pretend with whatever she's watching on her TV or whatever it was, and she's pretending to be like a ninja, and winds up during the play breaking Hikari's kendama, which for those who don't know, it's that little stick with the ball at the end tied by a rope that when you flick your wrist the right way, the ball will land on the cup at the end of the stick.
It's kind of like ball in a cup, but like it's made differently.
Yeah.
Man.
And Hikari really loves that kendama, and the kendama is a way for him to really like focus and think. For those of you that have seen House MD on USA or Fox or whatever, think of House throwing the ball at the wall when he's trying to think of like how to diagnose a patient. That is the exact same thing Hikari does with the kendama. He is walking around with a thing, trying to solve the mystery or solve the problem, and that's his way to get in the zone. So Kagura breaking that's kind of a really big deal to him.
Yeah.
So for the entire episode, Kagura is just feeling really, really bad about it, and she feels like Hikari hates her. And it turns out Hikari is not really mad. He's just kind of like, well, I should have expected this kind of thing to happen, but you're forgiven. And together, they realized the best way to defeat the axe wielding monster of the week was to use their own weapons to form a human kendama to launch one ranger at the monster to attack, while the other one stays back to defend, and then rinse and repeat. Which is a really cool tactic, and that's one of the reasons why Hikari is so badass, because he thinks outside the box and sets a way that he can do something that badass looking.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, just to give you like a comparative kind of thing, episode 10 is Takadi driven, and it's the episode's called Takadi Dies at Sunset, and quite honestly, this is probably one of my least favorite episodes in the entire series. Takadi is jogging along next to the train trying to build up his own endurance because in prior episodes he felt like he was a waste of a ranger because he couldn't really fight, he can't really do anything. He feels really worthless, so he's trying to build himself up. He meets this kid who's playing out in the field or whatever, and Takadi's looking at a train, and the kid's like, "What are you looking at? You're weird." And Takadi's surprised because normally kids can see the rainbow line. For example, back when they're looking at Diesel O, it was the kids that could actually see Diesel O in the museum yard, and they're like, "Yeah, we see the train, but we don't ever talk about it because nobody else can see it." The adults don't know what we're talking about. They think we're crazy or we're making up stuff. So Takadi's surprised to see that this kid couldn't see it, meaning the kid lost all his imagination. And Takadi meets the monster soon thereafter, who marks him for dead at sunset. And the rest of the episode is just a Takadi pity party.
Basically.
It's the Takahati pity party, and I really didn't like it.
And unfortunately, we would have to get used to that because, without giving too much away, a lot of the episodes down the line would focus on Togachi.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of episodes dedicated to him. Knowing
I feel like they could have focused less on him and focused more on something else. He's a really pathetic character in not a good way. He never learns either. That's the problem with him. In these 10 episodes, he realized earlier on, I'm a waste. He tries to make himself more strong, but he still ends up in the same situation where he can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure viewers will probably not approve of my assessment of him, but he more or less is just a wimp. He has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Is there anything else that we want to hit on for these 10?
Not really.
Because it's mostly filler. There's the one where villains. We should talk about them a little bit. So, the villains up until this point are 3 generals named General Schwartz, who is the military leader of the Shadow Line. You have Lady Noir, who is the mother of the bride of the Shadow Emperor, who we have not met yet. The daughter's name is Glitter.
Yep.
Glitter is a McDonald's nightmare.
She is ugly.
She really does look like Grimace.
Take the purple dude from McDonald's, Grimace.
Yep.
And mate him with a cat, and you have Glitter. I just she's really creepy looking, but she's a really well developed character down the line. I really enjoyed her character. Basically, Lady Noir is trying to prepare her for marriage with the Emperor, who we'll talk about next time.
Yep.
Because episode 11 onwards is where we meet the Emperor. So the entire idea here is that General Schwartz, there's another guy named Nero, but
Baron Nero.
Baron Nero, he's not really that important though.
Yeah, he does.
He kind of sucks, isn't it? Kind of sucks.
He's really not he's not really prominent in these 10 episodes at all. He's just kind of there.
I mean, even in later episodes, he's really just that villain who's just evil for evil's sake. It doesn't really do much throughout the show.
Yeah.
Kind of a suck up too, honestly.
He's a good yes man. He follows whatever the rest of them say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a scene where General Schwartz gets back from the Rainbow Line, fighting the Rainbow Line, and he gives Glitter his handkerchief, and Glitter takes this as a sign of affection, and soon thereafter she falls head over heels madly in love with this guy, and he doesn't really even realize what he's done in the beginning. He's just like, here, take this handkerchief. And he's like, senpai noticed me. Senpai noticed me. So that's basically what you get for the first arc, is this unrequited love, which I thought was really fantastic.
Yeah.
It added a level of character development that was sorely lacking in the Tokusatsu themselves. I think they're more developed than the actual good guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a big plus because a lot of the villains, even especially some of the Tokkyuger villains, with the exception of 2 villains, which I'm not going to give away because I don't want to give spoilers for Riz.
Yeah.
Most of the Tokkyuger villains were really boring, in all honesty. Some of them were cool here and there, but I really appreciated how for the first 10 episodes they were given a Glitter more of a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Because just one of the things, it's kind of become common. I'm not sure when they started this, like back in '80s Sentai's like villain focus was like huge. Like hell, at times like there were times where like villains would get more focused than the Rangers. But but I guess I think like maybe when the 2000s came though, Sentai's really just started to stop really caring much about their villains and just made them like bland. So I really appreciated the Shadow Line being a bit more developed with some of its characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really did enjoy these villains. There's not much more I can say about that. So far, I think we're at a point right now where we can stop and get ready for the next set of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do that, though, if y'all could rate on a scale of 1 to 10 Tokkyuger as a whole. I mean, just those 10 episodes, how would you rate the show at that point?
I rate maybe a 5.
I didn't hear a word of that because you kind of broke out again.
I think he said 5. Anthony?
Yeah.
You said 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Me personally, I guess I could give it like maybe a 6, I guess, because yes, it's filler and a lot of the filler episodes are really stupid, but I don't know. I mean, I guess some like episodes like episode 7 that give character development for fillers, that kind of ranks it a little bit higher in my book. I mean, I think it's a lot better than Goseiger, at least because like, when I was 10 episodes into Goseiger, I actually took a very like it's like I didn't start watching Goseiger again until like almost like 10 months later. But so yeah, it definitely at least kept like I still wanted to continue after the first 10 episodes of ToQger, so I can rank it at about a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, so for me, when I'm going to go back and hit on the website a little bit. Given I've written reviews for the first 16 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
Going back and looking at the scores, I gave the episode 1 a 7.75, and then I started thinking that it was going somewhere, because in all honesty, it was going somewhere. The filler was leading somewhere. At the time, I just couldn't see where it was leading. But progressively, as time went on, it started dropping again. As I realized, well, okay, this filler is not going anywhere at all. So, I'm going to give just the first 10 episodes a slightly lower score than what I originally gave it. Given I know a lot more now about Tokkyuger than I did back in, May of last year. So, I'm going to give it a 7.5, because the villains are really good. The fight scenes are interesting. The general premise of how the villains take over the towns are always fun and amusing to me. But it really falls short on bad character development and a lack of a direction and plot.
Mm.
So 7.5. You give it a 5, and you give it a 6?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, well, you got the, you heard it first here. Alright, we are, Anime Secrets, Toku Secrets is the name of this, mini-series. It's probably gonna be like a full-time podcast once we get off the ground. So, until next time on Toku Secrets, we are Rizwan, Nathan, and Anthony, and we are... I can't even think of like a good train pun for this. So, goodbye. So, goodbye. So, goodbye. So, goodbye. So, goodbye. So, goodbye. So, goodbye.
Hey you! Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. You can also check out Anime Secrets on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. Do you want more than that? I know you do. Then go to our website where you can see daily updates and articles and exclusive interviews.